In this video, I'm going to be explaining how to play Xia Legends of a Drift System with the Embers of a Forsaken Star expansion. I'm doing this because the Embers of a Forsaken Star expansion is often considered necessary to play the game. Also, I'm going to be showing how to play with the Sellsword Mark II mini expansion along with the Missions and Powers expansion. Place the near sector in the middle of the map and also shuffle the remaining sector tiles. Now you will want to draw as many tiles as there are players. For example, in a 2-player game, draw 2 tiles, and in a 3-player game, draw 3 tiles, like so. Draw them and make sure to match the edge symbols on the map. So first, pick a side, and then draw a tile. Make sure that you then find that edge symbol, like so, and place it like that. The orientation of the map does not matter, only the edge symbol. So then, draw as many map tiles as there are players. For example, I'm using this one, and then using kind of this hook looking one, and then I'm going to place one more here. And if you draw a tile, for example, Lost Sector, that does not have a spawn point, make sure to shuffle it back into the stack and draw a new one. Next, shuffle the relic tokens and the exploration tokens and leave them face down like so. Additionally, make sure that you are using the 10 new ones from Embers of a Forsaken Star while not using the ones from Xia Legends of a Drift System base game. These ones are more balanced. For the next step, shuffle all types of cards for the missions, titles, and events and leave them within reach of all players. At this point, you can also include the missions and powers ones, as well as the ones that come in Xia Embers of a Forsaken Star along with the base game. Just make sure to shuffle them all in. Same thing with the titles, and the events come only from Embers of a Forsaken Star. Next, take all the cargo cubes, outfits of these 4 types, the cargo outfits, the mods, and the damage and ice damage markers, placing them within reach of all players. Place the dice and credits within reach of all players. In Xia, you have 4 types of dice: a 6-sided die, an 8-sided die, a 12-sided die, and a 20-sided die. Leave these within reach of all players. Additionally, there are 3 types of credits: 1,000, 2,000, and 5,000. The 2,000 credits are only found within a promotional package. Also, give 4,000 credits to each of the players. Give each player a How to Win card that has the blue Embers of a Forsaken Star symbol in the bottom right. Next, place the Kilns NPC on the rule space on the map, and also place the outlaw markers and the event tokens with the supply and the rest of the rules cards along with the missions and powers rule card and the Sellsword Mark II card if you have them. Also, place the miniatures on the cards and make sure the scoundrel has the bounty marker to mark that it is an outlaw, and also the bounty itself on the card. You want to deal 1 NPC each to every single player. If there are less than the number of NPCs, give multiples to each player, and if there are more players, not everyone will get an NPC. This is not vital to the game, and having more or less NPCs will not give you an advantage or disadvantage. Now, place out the Fame Point track. When using Embers of a Forsaken Star, make sure that you are using the ones with the event tiles. Also, choose a number to play to. You can choose any of the numbers on this space. And also, if you'd like, you can even play to more than 20 Fame Points. Choose a number. I like to go with 10 for kind of medium length games. And that is what you will play to. When the first person reaches the victory marker, they win. Also, with the economy board, place it out and roll a d6 for every single one of the resources. You will place them on the economy board, like so. The embers, which are the white resources, will stay in the box. These will be used later in the game. The finished economy board will look like so. Note that the number of cubes may differ based on what you rolled for each of the resources. Deal these 3 NPCs to the first 3 players. The sales word is not dealt to a specific player. Make sure to place it somewhere else. These 3 will be dealt to 3 players, and if there are less than 3 players, one player will get multiple. If there are more than 3 players, not everyone will have one. This should not mess up the game, as they do not work for the person that has them. Only that person will just be controlling it. Next, separate out the 3 tiers of the ship mats and their matching ability cards. The blues are tier 1, the greens are tier 2, and the purple is tier 3. When playing with the sellsword, make sure that you take out the Void Wasp ability card and ship mat. Every player will roll a d20. The person who has the highest roll will be the first to take a tier 1 ship. They will only pick one of the cards, as the Missions and Powers expansion has multiple cards for each ship. Also, during this step, you want to remove the Nightshade, Long Haul, and Manchester abilities with the orange Xayah one in the bottom right. These were errata in the Embers of a Forsaken Star and given more powerful abilities. Up to this point, your setup should be looking something like this. This is an example for 3 players. Note that the fancy containers do not come with Xayah Legends of the Triss system and must be purchased separately. Now, each player will choose the spawn point that is closest to him. The Puddle Jumper will be taking this one. The Swamp Rat, which is over there, will be taking this one. And Persistent Memory will be taking this one. Now, every player is going to put out their markers. This yellow player is going to put 4 on the arm space, 1 on the highest energy, and every player will do 1 on the 0 point of the fame track. Now, in the same order as ship selection, each player will spend the 4,000 credits they have to purchase outfits and mods for their ship. They may purchase any combination they want, so long as it does not go above $4,000. Also, this step is not mandatory, and if any players want to skip it, they can. As an example, this person purchased a Halon engine, a Targe shield, and a GTS, and put those in the hold. You may only put them in the hold in the way they can fit. Any other combinations will work so as they aren't outside, like so. The last person to select their ship takes the first player token and starts the game. Xayah is a sandbox game where the players take the action phase, business phase, and status phase, trying to get the necessary different ways to get the fame points so they can move up on the track and get to the space on the victory track to win. Ships represent the type that you picked during setup. They may only occupy one space at a time. Therefore, multiple ships cannot be in the same space. Also, every player will have their own unique ability. When playing with the Missions and Powers expansion, there are 2, and you only pick one of them during setup. You may only move your ships by using your engines, your impulse by flipping it over, or abilities. But my ability doesn't have anything to do with movement, thus it cannot move my ship. Some abilities are either something that just always apply, such as paying 0 energy to arm markers, or other ones let you pay the energy cost. For example, this one makes you pay 2 energy, and you roll a d20, and then you follow what it says. So I rolled an 11, so on this card, I will refer to the 9 through 19, which moves 2 spaces after each player's turn. After using an ability, make sure to flip it over to show that it has been exhausted for this turn. Then during the status phase, it will flip back up again. But since it's an action, it cannot be used again because the action phase has already passed. When a player purchases a new ship, they will end up with multiple ability cards from all previously owned ships. So, for example, I have a 1 and a 2 if I upgraded to the Lone Drifter, which would allow me to use both of these. Each ship mat has the name, the tier of the ship, the bounty, the hold, which is unique to each ship, the energy meter, which is also unique to each ship, as they'll have different numbers, the price, which is 1,000 for tier 1s, 5,000 for tier 2s, and 8,000 for tier 3s. The hold will differ per ship, and these are your arm spaces, and these are your disarm spaces. Each ship will also have an impulse, but the number changes for each ship. The backside of each card has a bunch of information, a backstory for the beginning of the game, and a victory story if you win. These are entirely optional, and you do not ever have to look at these during a game, but you can read them for fun. Your hold can have outfits, mods, cargo cubes, and damage markers on it. You can repair the damage on your ship by a cost of $1,000 for tier 1 and tier 2 and $2,000 for tier 3 ships, having you remove all damage cubes. But you may only do this on a planet. If every spot in your hold is damaged, everything is unusable, but also your ship is destroyed. Make sure to follow the rules for destroyed ships, which will be shown later in this video. Over the course of the game, you'll be spending energy to perform certain actions until you reach 0, at which point you can no longer spend energy. If you are on a planet, after your action phase, you'll enter the business phase, and you can replenish up to 10 energy for free. If you have no energy and no armed markers, they're all disarmed or on outfits, then you will be stranded, and you cannot use anything except the impulse token and taking minor actions, which will all be explained later. To use the impulse token, simply flip it face down and move your ship that many spaces. Since my value was 4, I can move 4 spaces. 1, 2, 3, 4. During the status phase, it will flip back up, allowing me to use it again next turn. Depending on whether you have a bounty or not, you will either be innocent or an outlaw. Several actions will give you bounty, which will make you an outlaw. For example, evading a planetary shield and not going through the legal entrance has a chance, which will be explained later, of giving you a 1,000 credit bounty, therefore making you an outlaw. There are also illegal missions that will sometimes give you a bounty, which will be explained on the card. Since every card is different, I cannot show how everyone will work in this video. Note that every time you use an illegal card, that does not necessarily make you an outlaw. Only if you receive the bounty do you become an outlaw. Also, destroying an innocent ship will make you an outlaw, and your bounty will increase by $1,000. However, if a player destroys you instead, they take your bounty and they place it with their money. Therefore, you are no longer an outlaw because your bounty is gone. Also, when upgrading your ship, you lose your bounty, therefore making you no longer an outlaw. If you are on a planet, you may purchase a new ship that is exactly one tier higher than your current one. Everything is transferred except bounty and damage, which everything will go onto the new card, allowing you to rearrange the ship hold again. Also, you will have a new ability that you will be able to pick, along with the fact that you can keep abilities that you had previously. There are 6 different types of outfits in Xia Legends of a Drift system. 4 from the base game and 2 from the expansion. There are engines that allow you to move, shields that allow you to defend, blasters that allow you to attack adjacent spaces, and missiles that allow you to attack farther away. There are also 2 from Embers of the Forsaken Star, the cargo pod that lets you hold extra cargo, and armor plating that lets you hold damage and ice damage. Each of these have the name, the price that you must pay in credits to get the outfit, the die you roll, and the use spaces. The outfits are divided into sections separated by the white lines that allow you to place damage. Once you purchase an outfit, you place it in your hold. The smaller outfits are weaker, while the bigger outfits tend to be stronger. Also, you can place them in any orientation on your ship, but they must stay within the boundaries. So for example, I cannot put this right here because it would flip over. Also, there is no right side up, so you can like turn around and, for example, place it here, etc. The rearranging must be done during the business phase though, other than originally purchasing the outfit. During the action phase, you can use one of your armed markers and place it on one of these yellow spaces on the outfits in order to arm the outfit. And you can arm them in any order, or you can arm all of them or none of them, doesn't matter. And you can arm the same one multiple times. That will allow you to roll the die and then you activate it the way it works. Note, however, during the business phase, you may not rearrange an outfit that has any damage markers on it. You also cannot purchase any outfits that cannot fit in your hold. Additionally, when you have a damaged outfit, you cannot place the marker on top of the damaged space. You can place it on the other space, but it reduces the roll when you roll the die by 1. When selling outfits, they sell for half of the price of their credits, rounded up. Tier 1 and Tier 2 outfits both sell for 1,000 because of rounding issues. And Tier 3 outfits sell for 2,000 credits. Note the damaged outfits cannot be sold. Once repaired, they may be sold. After your action phase is over, normally your ship will be looking something like this. You will have all your markers onto your hold if you choose to do so. You don't have to. And you will have the status phase where you can spend energy at the cost of 1 energy per marker to place those markers back onto your armed space. If you do not have enough energy or do not want to spend the energy required for any of them, you then take them and then put them onto the disarmed space, where you then may pay 1 energy on your next turn status phase to put it back into the armed space. As a reminder, if all your markers are disarmed and your energy is at 0, you are then stranded. For the following examples, I have removed the hold in order to just focus on the outfits. Engines may be used by placing the marker on a U space and then rolling the die in order to see how many spaces you move on the board. For example, since I rolled a 7, I may then move 7 spaces on the board. And then that is how you do it. You can also activate it again and roll again and move that many spaces. So 4 spaces, so 1, 2, 3, 4. Players may also place a marker on a U space of a blaster. When using a blaster, you roll the die listed, so this is a D12, and then you take that and use that during an attack, which will be explained later in this video. Blasters only have a range of 1 space and must follow the line of sight rule. The combat rules will be discussed later in this video. Missiles work similarly to blasters, but their range is 2 to 6 spaces. You then place your marker on the U space and then roll the appropriate die, which in this case is a D20, and they work just like the blasters, other than the only difference is the target must be at least 2 spaces away and can only shoot up to 6 spaces away with line of sight. Shields are the only outfits that can be used outside of your turn, while also being able to be used during your turn. Anytime you take damage other than unblockable damage, you place the marker on a U space and roll the appropriate die. In this case, it's a 10. So if I took less than 10 damage, I would have blocked all of the damage. Or if I took, let's say, 13 damage, I rolled a 10, I would protect from 10 damage, thus leaving me with only 3 damage. Even when you take damage outside of your turn, you can still use your shield and roll the die. You may also use shields when taking damage from asteroids and also from energy loss from nebula. After defending from an attack, you may then pay 1 energy to rearm your ship. After defending from an attack outside of your turn, you may then spend 1 energy to rearm the marker from a shield. The cargo pod and the armor plating outfits may be used on spaces hanging off where normally would not be allowed for other outfits. The cargo pod can only hold cargo, including the new embers, and the armor plating can only hold damage and ice damage. Later in this video, I'll discuss how ice damage works, but when spreading ice damage on armor plating, it may not cross into or from the green space into the blue spaces. So when spreading, it can only spread, for example, to there, or if the ice damage is here, it will only spread to here because it cannot spread over here. The rest of the ice damage rules will be explained later. There are also 4 types of special outfits that are called mods that change what the normal outfits do. The Piercer allows you to negate 4 of the blocked damage that your opponent rolls during an attack that you make against them. Piercers are placed on top of blaster or missile outfits like so. A GTS is placed adjacent to an engine outfit and increases the roll when you roll for engines by 2. This outfit cannot exceed its regular roll. For example, if I roll a 7, the roll will only go up to 8 because it cannot exceed 8 because that is the die printed on the outfit. MComps allow you to have 2 extra active missions for each one that you have. However, if it is damaged, you must discard down to the new number. For example, if I had only one of these and I had 3 missions, I must discard 2 of them, leaving 1 left. It is your choice which ones you discard and which ones you do not. Enviro shields are placed on top of regular shields, and they allow you, when activated, to roll the maximum number by default. For example, this one would always become a 12 versus non-combat damage or energy loss. They cannot affect combat damage in any way. While playing Xayah, it is your choice whether you use the ones with the reminder numbers on them or not. They do not affect the rules of them. They all work the same. During combat, the first thing you do is acquire the target. The target must be within the range of the attack that you are using. Blasters have a range of 1, while missiles have a range of 2 to 6 spaces. So, for this example, a missile could attack this ship because it is 6 spaces away. However, the missile cannot attack the enforcer because it is only 1 space away. However, the blaster cannot attack this one because it is 6 spaces away. The first thing you do is acquire line of sight. Not only does distance matter, you must draw a mental line from the attacker to the defender through the center without crossing an impenetrable border. The impenetrable borders are planetary shields and entrances, debris fields, asteroids, and stars. However, nebula does not count as one of these. Unexplored spaces can also not be used when determining line of sight. The next step is to declare attack. The attacker spins arm markers on their outfits in order to determine the roll. They may combine multiple attacks into one, or they can spread them out into separate attacks. Then, in the next step, the defender decides which shields and abilities they want to use. After this has been done, both the attacker and the defender roll. So the attacker rolls first. In this case, he got an 8. And then the defender rolls. In this case, he got a 6. And after this step, you subtract the totals. The attacker got an 8 while the defender got a 6. So the remaining number is 2. This is the amount of damage taken by the defender. In the case of multiple defenders, each defender resolves the attack separately. As stated earlier, the defender can now spend 1 energy per marker to rearm their markers. This does not apply to markers spent in previous actions. Once all this is over, the attack action is over. The defender now decides where they want to put the damage markers on their ship. When the defender has a damage marker in every single space of their hold, their ship is destroyed. Immediately remove the defending ship from the game mat. Next, place the defending ship on the player mat. At this time, all active missions are discarded, as well as the cargo cubes being dropped on the space where the ship was destroyed. If the ship had a bounty, it is removed and the player is no longer an outlaw. If this happened on the player's turn, their turn ends immediately. Once destroyed, reset the energy meter to full energy and then remove all the damage. Now, any ability cards are refreshed. On that player's next turn, they will then roll the d20 and then respawn their ship. In this case, they rolled a 6, so they would place it on the number closest to 6. In this case, it is 7, so put it here. In the case they roll a number that's already taken, it is disregarded and the next closest number is taken. This rule also applies for NPCs. In the rare case that a 20 is rolled, the player receives 1 point on the fame track. Tier 1 ships respawn with 1 damage, Tier 2 ships respawn with 2 damage, and Tier 3 ships respawn with 3 damage. Engines may be used in a desperate situation to take an attack action against an adjacent ship. This action is separate from a movement action, which cannot be used to ram another ship. Ramming has a range of 1 space and requires line of sight. The player follows the steps outlined in combat. The attack is carried out similar to any other attack, with the exception that damage dealt is also applied to the attacking ship. The damage to the attacking ship is unblockable, while the target is free to use shields or defensive abilities. Also, the attack always does full damage to the attacker no matter how much damage the target takes, even if the target is destroyed. If the attacker combines ramming with other attacks, only the ramming damage is applied to the attacker. Note that impulse cannot be used for ramming. Both engine outfits and the impulse token may be used for movement. Players gain movement by taking a move action. Movement may be spent to move the ship. Each point of movement moves a ship 1 space on the game board. When taking a move action, players do not have to spend all of the movement. However, any unspent movement is discarded when the move action ends. There are several different minor actions in the game that I will explain later in this video, and you do not have to stop your movement to do them. However, major actions must be done before or after movement. Impulse is used by flipping the token face down and moving your ship that many spaces. Impulse may only be used once per turn and it is refreshed during the status phase. As explained earlier, the engine outfits must be used by placing a marker on the engine outfit and rolling the die specified. You then move your ship that many spaces. A ship may move through other ships, but a ship may not end movement on another ship. Some ability cards may also grant movement. Follow the rules on the card about how this will work, making sure to pay the required energy costs, if any. To use an occupied space, in this example, the buy space, the yellow player would spend 2 movement. But when doing this, make sure to roll for borders. As explained in this video, you must roll for planetary shields. Anytime you would have to roll to go through one, you would do so now as if your ship moved into the space, but do not move your ship. After you take a major action, your ship must stop. If you have no arm markers left and your energy is at 0, regardless of whether you have the impulse spent or not, you are stranded. When you are stranded, you may only take minor actions and cannot any longer take normal actions. Someone who has at least 3 energy can spend 2 energy to rescue you. If they rescue you, they transfer 2 energy from their ship to your ship, and you cannot refuse their help. You may then immediately arm markers with the newly received energy. If your ship is stranded, for example by Nebula, you must end your movement immediately. The rescuer will gain 1 fame point. Also note you can become unstranded if you get 1 or more energy or arms markers. An example of this is being rescued or recharging at a planet. Now I will explain the 3 phases in detail. These are the action phase, the business phase, and the status phase. In the action phase, you declare the action you want to take, you spend the required energy or arms markers, and roll any dice and resolve the action. The first action you can take is moving. This can be done by activating engines or using your impulse. This has been explained earlier in detail. You can attack if you use your missiles, blasters, or ram with your engines. For the missions, there are 3 things that you can do. The first is draw missions. When going on a mission point, you may spend a minor action to draw missions. At this point, you will draw 3 mission cards, put them face down without looking at them, and on another player's turn, you pick one of them. You then take that and place it face down at your ship map. It's face up in this example just for demonstrative purposes. In reality, it looks something like this. Missions have the name, flavor text, and they also show where to start at a mission point. It has the target, and it has things that you must do. This is called the mission objective. When you do a legal mission, you cannot get a bounty. When you do an illegal mission, sometimes you may get a bounty. This will declare you as an outlaw. As an action, you may complete the objective listed on your card. To complete a mission, simply turn it in at the final mission point on the map. For example, you must do this when adjacent to the player on your left. A lot of other cards have you fly to a certain mission point on a map. When completing the objective, simply flip the card face up, revealing it to everyone, and then place any credits that you earned on it. Once you complete a mission by delivering it, you then turn it in and receive a fame point. You may buy and sell cargo cubes for their printed costs. Additionally, you may harvest from nebula. You may mine from asteroid sectors. You may salvage from debris sectors. And you may quarry from ice asteroid sectors. Cubes left on the board may be collected as a minor action. To explore, you can either do blind jumping or scanning. If you choose to scan, simply pay 1 energy, choose the side that you want, for example, this one, and make sure to match the symbol with the symbol on the new one. To blind jump, simply move into the space and follow the same rules. If you move into a space that has danger, you must accept the consequences. This may result in immediate death. As a minor action, you may collect an exploration token. Or, as a minor action, you may jettison cargo. You may not pick them back up again in the same turn that you jettison it. If you end your action phase on a planet, you may begin the business phase. At this point, you may recharge your energy to maximum for free. You may also pay 1,000 credits to repair all damage. At this time, ice damage will melt. You do not have to pay anything. You may also purchase new outfits and fit them in the hold. You may also sell your outfits. Tier 1 outfits sell for 1,000, Tier 2 outfits sell for 1,000, and Tier 3 outfits sell for 2,000. You can remember this because this is half their cost rounded up. Now you can rearrange your hold. You cannot rearrange outfits with damage markers, and you cannot rearrange damage markers themselves. You are free to arrange outfits, and you are also free to arrange cubes. You can also buy a ship that is exactly one tier higher than your current ship. Simply pay the cost on the new card and gain 1 fame. You may now also buy 1 fame for 5,000 credits. This may not be used for the last fame needed for victory. Whether or not you had a business phase, the status phase will now occur. During the status phase, the first thing you will do is freeze ice damage. You place it orthogonally adjacent to the ice damage you had before. Next, you claim fame from unclaimed titles or any other fame points that were unclaimed during your turn. If you land on this yellow space, or if you land on this pink space, make sure that you draw any titles and events revealing them. Note that this only happens for the first player to reach that threshold. Any other players do not reveal any additional cards. At this point, you may refresh ability cards and your impulse token. You may now arm markers by paying 1 energy each for your markers. If you do not spend the required energy, make sure to place it in the disarm space. If you are on a planet, you may arm all your markers for free. Some miscellaneous rules regarding sectors are as follows. Rule spaces do not block line of sight, and you must follow whatever they say. Also, when calculating distance, this is treated as the same sector, 1 sector away, 2 sectors away, and 3 sectors away. When playing with Embers of a Forsaken Star, do not use the tokens from Xayah Legends of a Drift System. Instead, use the tokens from Xayah Embers of a Forsaken Star. They have the tannish background instead of the black background. The different tokens work as follows. These give you the orange cube, purple cube, green cube, pink cube, and blue cubes. This one gives you 5 extra movement. These refill your energy meter up to max. These give you 1 ice damage. Lastly, there's the Captain in Need token. This is a special one as you must draw an event card and you fly to where it says the mission icon is. Once you get there, you get 1 fame point, and 1,000 credits. If you do not wish to accept the Captain in Need, you may discard the card. Also, you may discard an existing mission to make room for one because it takes up a slot in your active missions. If you have 2 or more exploration tokens, you must discard them both and get 1 fame point or 2,000 credits. Once an exploration token has been taken, it can no longer come back. It is permanently gone from the game. There are 14 types of borders in Xia Legends of a Drift system. The first is a normal border, which looks like this. These have no impact on movement or line of sight. Solid red borders are star borders, and if you cross these, your ship is immediately destroyed. Star borders also block line of sight. Every time you enter an asteroid border, you must roll a d20. On 11 through 20, you take no damage. If you roll less than 11, you must take that many damage up to 10. For example, in this case, I rolled a 4, which means I must take 4 damage. You may exit asteroid fields safely. However, they do block line of sight. There are 3 types of planetary shields: lawful, outlaw, and neutral. Lawful is blue, outlaw is red, and neutral is green. The shields work all the same way regardless of their color. If you move through a shield, you must roll a die. If you get 1 through 10, you take damage equal to the roll, and you may not move through the shield. If you roll 11 through 17, you do cross through the planetary shield, but you gain a $1,000 bounty and are now an outlaw. If you roll 18 through 20, you cross the planetary shield undetected without any consequences. Once inside the planetary shield, you are considered to be on that planet. Planetary shields and entrances both block adjacency and line of sight. The dashed line represents a planetary entrance. On a lawful planetary entrance, you may cross as long as you do not have a bounty. On a red outlaw planetary entrance, crossing the entrance gives you a $1,000 bounty for being seen with the outlaws. Green planetary entrances are neutral and do not have any special rules. Anytime you roll a d20 for a border roll, you may also activate your shield and roll the die associated with your shield to reduce the damage you take. This also applies to energy loss in Nebula. Nebula borders are solid pink lines. When crossing these, you roll a d20. On 1 through 10, you subtract that many energy from your ship. On 11 through 20, you enter the nebula without consequence. On 1 through 10, you subtract that much energy, and you still get to cross the space. If you run out of energy while you have no armed markers, you are now considered stranded. On 11 through 20, you cross the nebula without any consequences. Once inside, you may exit without any consequences. Also, the inner borders are considered normal spaces for movement. Nebula spaces in general do not block line of sight. Similarly to asteroids, debris fields also block line of sight. When you move into one, roll a d20. On 1 through 3, your ship is immediately destroyed. On 4 through 20, you cross without any consequences. You may also exit without any consequences. However, if you are in a debris field and you move to another one, you must roll again. Ice asteroids work exactly the same way as regular asteroids, except when you take damage, you must take ice damage instead. Gate spaces work just like any other normal space in regards to movement and line of sight. However, once on a gate space, you may spend one movement to travel to any other gate space. And if you are the first player to do this, you gain a fame point. The Tigress Gate does not connect to the other gates because it is damaged. On 1 through 19, place your ship on the closest rolled spawn point. On a 20, gain a fame point and choose any spawn. The first player to use Tigress also gains a fame point. When a dead world is discovered, place the printed number of tokens onto the space. You may take one of these tokens if you perform the excavate action, but only if you're successful. On 1 through 10, take ice damage similarly to how an ice asteroid works. If you roll 11 through 20, you may take one of these and place them in your ship's hold. However, you must keep it face down. Dead world spaces are considered normal spaces for movement, do not block line of sight, and you may not take a business phase on a dead world. When moving on to an anomaly gravity field, place your ship there and then roll the printed die. Move that many spaces. When going across the anomaly, you may not take any minor actions that you may stumble across. If you get pushed off of the gravity path, any excess movement from the gravity is discarded, and you may now take your regular movement, backtracking if you wish to without rolling. If the space you get pushed onto is another gravity path, you must roll that printed die. In this case, if a 6 is rolled, and you move on to this space, your ship is destroyed immediately. When a space with a comet on it is discovered, place the comet miniature on the space. Similarly to how a gravity field works, when you move on the space, you must roll a d6. In this case, I rolled a 4. Move the comet that many spaces. If it moves into your space, you are destroyed immediately. If you did not get destroyed, you're free to move on the path. If you go off of it and back on again, you must roll again. Two things to consider is that comets can destroy cargo cubes, and also, only players may spawn these places. NPCs do not activate gravity or comet movement. You may not take any actions or movement, whether minor or not, on a comet space until the comet is resolved. The sector containing near and the orbit space for the kiln is one of the most unique sectors in the game. During setup, once you place this sector, place the kiln on the rule space. If you are adjacent to the kiln, you may spend one movement and dock on the kiln. Simply take your miniature and place it on the NPC card on whichever space you want. Once you dock, roll a d6 and move the kiln that many spaces. The kiln cannot end movement on top of an occupied space and must stop short of it if it would land exactly on that space. While on the kiln, you may perform the sift action and reveal a relic token that is in your hold. These either give you fame point or a different reward. Once you take the reward, place the token back into the supply. The Ember cell space, just like any other cell space, works exactly the same way. However, you get 2,000 credits per cube. If you sell a minimum of 2 cubes, you may still take the 1 fame point reward. While being on this card, it is treated exactly like a neutral planet. Note that this also blocks adjacency and line of sight. In the unlikely event that the kiln is destroyed, destroy any ships that are on this card. This NPC does not get a special turn. The first player to reach the yellow or pink space activates the title or event. Titles give you fame points if you do the challenge that it asks you to do. These start on the turn after because they are revealed on the status phase of the player that drawed them. If you claim the title, you now have this special ability. Events do some things that can either be positive or negative. It also says when the card leaves play, follow the rules stated on the card. Also note that there are event tokens that you may use as reminders. If you do not like the result that you rolled for a mission, you may re-roll it if you've already completed this same type of mission. For example, both of these are thief cards. If I discard one, then I may roll the die again, keeping only the new result. Another rule to keep in mind is that just like cargo, you can jettison a mission. Simply discard the mission. If the mission deck runs out, simply take the discarded missions, shuffle them up, and then use what was the discard pile as now the draw deck for missions. Some missions require players to calculate the shortest flyable distance measured in sectors. To calculate this distance, start from the sector tile containing the pickup mission point and count the fewest number of flyable tiles you need to move into to reach the tile containing the deliver mission point. You must count the most direct route that it is possible to fly. Do not count unexplored space or star sectors as flyable tiles. Gate special movement is never used when calculating shortest flyable distance. Cargo cubes are important because they can be sold for credits and fame. Cargo cubes are stored in the empty spaces in the hold of a ship. 1 cargo cube per space. There are 3 ways to acquire cargo cubes. The first is to buy. Cargo cubes can be bought from a planet's buy space. Players can use the buy cargo cubes action to buy 2 of the specified cargo cubes for 1,000 credits. To buy cargo cubes, the player must have enough empty space in their hold. Players may purchase as many cargo cubes as they desire, as long as they have enough credits and space in the hold. You can also mine, salvage, and harvest. Cargo cubes can be obtained by mining asteroid fields, salvaging technology from debris fields, and harvesting nebula gases. Cargo cubes that have been jettisoned onto the game board can be collected by collect cargo cubes, which is a minor action, while on the same space as the jettisoned cargo cubes. The player may collect any number of cubes in this space, as long as they have room in the hold. A player may not collect any cargo cubes they have jettisoned in the same turn. To sell cargo, simply move onto the sell space of the planet. It must match the same type that it says. If you sell at least 2 cargo cubes, you gain a fame point. You can also jettison cargo as a minor action and remove any or all cargo cubes from your hold. Remove the jettison cargo from your ship hold and put them on the game board as the same space as the jettisoning ship. A player that jettisons cargo cubes cannot pick those cubes up in the same turn. If a damage marker is placed in the hold space currently holding a cargo cube, the cargo cube is immediately jettisoned. You can mine, salvage, harvest, and quarry for cargo cubes and embers. To mine, simply roll a d20. On 1 through 10, take as many damage as the number on your roll. On 11 through 20, take 1 cargo cube of the type shown in the space. To salvage, roll a d20. On 1 through 3, you are immediately destroyed and follow the steps for death. On 4 through 20, take 1 cube. To harvest, on 1 through 10, deplete that many energy from your ship. Note that this may leave you stranded. On 11 through 20, take a cube. To quarry, simply roll a d20. On 1 through 10, receive as much ice damage as your roll. On 11 through 20, receive 1 ember. The economy board works as follows. When you use the buy space on a planet, simply take a cube from the supply as the same type that you were buying. If it runs out, you may no longer get those cubes. And if it is completely empty, place a $1,000 credit on the board. The cube is now in demand. When using the sell space, for example, if I sell the orange cubes, I produce the translucent blue cubes. If I were to sell, say, 2 of them, then I would take the 1,000 credits and put these on the board. Note that something that is in demand may only have a maximum of 1,000 credits on it. When selling cubes to Loath, they are consumed and you ignore the economy board. The Planet Key has a special space that allows you to trade cubes. To trade, place any number of cubes in your hold onto the economy board. Then take an equal number of cubes from the economy board, other than types you place this turn. For example, if you place cyber onto the economy board this turn, you cannot take any cyber this turn. If you place cubes that are in demand, you also gain the 1,000 credit reward. Note that assassin missions no longer require you to destroy the ship, but the ship must be destroyed in general for you to claim the reward. If your ship is destroyed while you have drawn missions that you've not selected, make sure to discard them all. NPCs work as follows. They are only introduced onto the board once the sector tile has been placed. Each NPC states where they will spawn on. When the NPC spawns, place it on the spawn point of the corresponding tile. An exception to this is a sellsword, where the miniature spawns inside of the Smuggler's Den planet shields. If a spawn point is occupied, place the NPC on an adjacent unoccupied space. If the NPC is destroyed, it respawns on a random spawn point, just like player ships. At the beginning of the game, NPC cards are shuffled and dealt to the first 3 players, which would only be these 3. A player takes a turn for the NPC he controls directly after his turn. NPCs do not have phases like player turns. To take an NPC turn, the player simply reads the NPC card from top to bottom, following the directions. When attacked, an NPC will automatically defend. For each attack action, use the defense specified in the blue defense section of the NPC card. When taking damage, the player controlling the NPC takes damage markers and places them on to the NPC card. If the damage on the card equals or excels the number needed specified in the yellow to kill section of the NPC card, the NPC is destroyed. When the NPCs are destroyed, the NPC miniature is immediately removed from the game board and placed on the NPC card. The player who destroyed the NPC takes any credits and fame points specified in the green on kill section of the NPC card. If one NPC destroys another NPC, the credits on the destroyed NPC's card are taken and placed on the attacking NPC's card. NPCs also forget their most recent attacker when they are destroyed. Otherwise, the death and respawn of an NPC follows the same rules as those for players. For movement, NPCs will avoid asteroid fields, debris fields, planetary shields, and stars. Nebula do not affect NPCs. NPCs can use gates. NPCs cannot take the scan or blind jump actions, and therefore cannot move into unexplored sector tiles. NPCs always take the most direct route to their targets. If there is more than one most direct route, the player controlling that NPC determines the path. Because of the random layout of the board, it is possible for there to be sectors that are unreachable by NPCs without crossing through a regularly avoided border. In this case, the NPC will move through the safest, most direct path to reach that sector. The safest path is determined by this order: asteroids, debris, then, as a last resort, planetary shields. NPCs must apply effects of these borders in the same way that a player would. The sellsword is independent from the players and must be hired. For more information about how these NPCs work, simply read the cards as they have the information on them. The two-player rules have a couple of exceptions. NPCs count as players for mission target purposes, with the sole exception of the kiln. If playing without NPCs, the opposing player is always your mission target. The Lone Drifter autopilot ability adds +2 movement to the successful rolls. And that is how you play Xia: Legends of a Drift System.